Woman, be who you are. You can be who you are. With Christ in your heart, you'll set the world on fire. Woman, there's no greater power than he who's working in you. Woman.
Hello and welcome to the program. This is Woman, the show about authentic faith and beauty. I'm Mladinich, your host, and today's topic is fashion and authentic beauty. And we'll have two really wonderful guests with us today, Janet Easter and Kara Eschbach. We'll introduce them to you in just a few minutes. But let's meet the panel first. This is Andrea Vasquez. She's a youth speaker and a former missionary who's traveled all over the world and speaks several languages. She's also a program coordinator here at Shalom World Media, and I'm so happy you're here with us, Andrea.
I'm happy to be here, Lisa. And I want to introduce to my left, Christie Young, who is the Associate Director for Christ the King Passionist Retreat Center. Christie is multi-talented, and among her talents is she sings beautifully, she writes, and she's actually responsible for our theme song that you heard when we started the show. So she's very talented. Welcome, Christie.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. It's such a blessing to be here with Lisa Mladinich. Lisa Mladinich is an amazing author. She wrote True Radiance, Finding Grace in the Second Half of Life, which don't be fooled by the title. It really is for women of all ages. I think it's so helpful to just change our perspective on beauty. She speaks around the country. She's also the founder of AmazingCatechist.com. Lots of great work you can check out there as well.
Thank you. All right, let's introduce our guests now to talk about authentic beauty and fashion. Janet Easter is the co-founder and editor-at-large at Verily, a fashion and lifestyle website that seeks to inspire women to be the best version of themselves. Janet believes in celebrating fashion that complements rather than compromises a woman's dignity. On behalf of Verily, Janet has been featured on Sirius XM Radio and other radio outlets, as well as the Huffington Post, the National Catholic Register, National Review, and CBS New York's The Couch Morning Show. Kara Eschbach is the co-founder and CEO of Verily and was a co-host on the nationally broadcast radio show Catching Up with Kara and Monica on Sirius XM Radio. She was on the investment team for Credit Suisse's secondary private equity fund and developed a coaching program for recent college graduates to accelerate their careers. Kara earned her BS with highest distinction from Purdue University, where she was a member of the varsity golf team and selected as the class commencement speaker. You can find them both at verilymag.com. Welcome. So who do we have first? Hey, Kara.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
Oh, we're so glad we're going to be alternating screens. So first we're seeing the face of Kara Eschbach. So nice to see you. Let's talk about backgrounds. I know that both of you came back into the faith. And would you like to go first, Kara?
Sure, yeah. I would say I grew up in a very strong Catholic households, but also very disconnected from any sense of a quote unquote Catholic culture outside of, just our family going to church on Sunday. And I'd say when I went to college, I more or less succumbed to all of the, I won't call them joys, but certainly the enticements of the hookup culture and, and certainly just giving into, I had read magazines growing up and really sort of started placing my treasure in places that weren't very edifying for me. Mm-hmm. And so it was actually through a relationship that I had at the end of my college years that I just came to realize that real love wasn't rooted in, the hookup culture and a very physical understanding of relationships. And basically from there, I was like, wow, all that stuff I learned growing up makes so much more sense, and sort of came back to the more traditional things that I'd learned growing up and started delving into my faith in a more real and personal way.
Wow, that's wonderful. How about you, Janet? What was your return to the faith like?
My story is very similar to Kara's in that I grew up in a very strong, beautiful, faithful Catholic family. I went to Catholic school my whole life, and I really had a heart for God. But come high school, come college, I really struggled. And I don't think it's a struggle that's that different than so many other young women out there. I really struggled with the pressure of the media and magazines, with body image, disorders, with sort of not knowing how to navigate dating and sort of falling into these unchaste relationships. And it was a series of a lot of small choices that I made, to the point where I was in college, I really hit a real low, kind of a rock bottom of sorts. My senior year in college, I had no friends. I was in these awful relationships. And I also, at the time, I went to school in New York City. I went to Fordham University. And in my last year there, I was working for Elle magazine, the fashion news department. I interned for them. And then I wrote also for Elle.com. So here I am, really just suffering in some ways. And I was also in the midst of the fashion industry. It was very cutthroat, very negative. And in my desperation, I sort of decided, when I hit this low point, I got to make new friends. So I went to a Catholic event in the city, and it took one person to reach out to me. And he really brought me into this crowd that he was with, a really wonderful Catholic, practicing Catholic young people. And Kara was actually one of those new friends of mine at the time. And from that moment on, I really was inspired by them. And I started going to daily mass at my school for the first time in my life. I never ever went to daily mass, but it was particularly after one of these masses I stayed after. And it was a real moment of grace that doesn't happen every day, but it was a time where I was looking at the crucifix on the wall, and in an instant, everything else melted away. Nothing else mattered except Christ on that cross suffering. And I knew in that moment that my life could never be the same. And from that moment on, I was really set on fire. I remember I graduated from school. I left the fashion industry. That summer I was with this new community that I had found, and I discovered what the church taught about women, about the dignity of women, about the feminine genius, about what the idea of modesty is, right? Relationships really look like. And so that was really, that conversion and reversion, I should say, was really the catalyst for starting something like Verily.
Wonderful. That's a perfect segue. Would Kara like to take on how Verily got started?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Janet, we kind of laughed that I was part of this group that Janet was friends with, because Janet and I weren't really that close of friends, but somehow she had decided to become my roommate. I would say like maybe a week before sort of fateful brunch when we started Verily. It was like, oh boy, you didn't even realize what you were getting signed up for. So it was really over brunch. And, as I had mentioned, I had been just like obsessed with women's magazines growing up. I worked on Wall Street when I first moved to New York. And so I have much more of a business and finance background. And at the time I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And it just so happened that we were at this brunch where the whole table was kind of talking about like, oh my goodness, what is it with women's magazines? Like, why are they all so ridiculous nowadays? Mm-hmm. And Janet was like, oh, I know, I worked at one. I know just how bad this is. She's like, oh, I've always wanted to start something that would be better for women, that would be true to who women really are. And it was just in that moment, you kind of get I'd say I have like 4 or 5 moments in my life where like I just knew I was supposed to do something. And the second she said it, I was like, yeah, we're supposed to do this. And I think I said to Janet, like, let's do it. And she's like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. And I was like, no, I'm serious. Like, we are going to do this thing. So it really, really started over brunch. And in some ways, what providence that she was my roommate. Because I think the fact that we had rooms like literally right next to each other. So Janet would be in her bedroom, trying to read a book or something. And I would pop my head in and be like, let's talk about that magazine thing.
Well, that's really neat. Well, let's get Janet back on screen and ask her why fashion? Why did she have such a burning fire to go headlong with all of this understanding of feminine beauty? Why fashion?
Well, I think fashion is incredibly important. I think the conversation around fashion is it's frivolous or it's vain or it can be terrible for women. Yeah. Actually, I think it's a beautiful and important tool. And I think when you use it as a tool, that's the difference. Fashion can really build up women. It can highlight their worth and their dignity. And it's all in how you use it. It's so powerful because at the same time, it can objectify women. It can go the other direction. And with Verily, we really are trying to pull the good from the culture. We're trying to curate. What we do is we look at the fashion industry, we look at the beauty industry, and we really pick and choose very carefully and discerningly what we want to feature, what we want to highlight, what fashion really doesn't objectify women, and what helps them feel beautiful and really draw other people to their goodness. And that's what fashion can do. And I think that it's so important to be, in some ways, truly beautiful, truly attractive, because it does help people to see who you really are, and all of your goodness. And even in Verily, we strive to feature modest clothing without really saying it's modest, because you don't really have to say it. And it's actually even more powerful when you just show it. And I think not only the clothes themselves, but the whole visual side of Verily is important. The photo shoots, the models, the photographer, it's all integrated. We really, not only are we very careful with the fashion that we curate, because we know how powerful it is, we know just as much how powerful those images are, because every woman wants to be beautiful and they want to be loved. And they're looking to these images, they're looking to this fashion. And so we are very careful. We choose models in a very particular way that are in a wide range, healthy, happy models. And I work with photographers to get good angles that don't, so it's very interesting in the art world and design world, how just small little things like that can change the direction of a photo and the image it's communicating.
I really hear, I'm sorry, go ahead, Christie. I was just going to say, I really hear the voice of God's love coming through all this.
Yeah.
Please stay tuned and accompany Christie and I as we go on the street for our On the Street segment.
Woman, be who you are. Woman, be who you are. You can be who you are. With Christ in your heart, you'll set the world on fire. Woman, there's no greater power than he who's working in you. Woman.
Age-defying, brighter eyes, lifting creams, enhancers, blemish removers, all of these are words and phrases that we associate with beauty today. Because let's face it, beauty comes at a cost nowadays. It takes us a long time to get beautiful, and beauty products are expensive. But we might miss the point here, thinking that beauty is only external, because beauty goes much deeper. Makeup is a good thing, and it enhances our natural beauty. But if we focus only on our external beauty, that's when we have a problem, because beauty is also much deeper than that. It's based on our virtues, on our moral qualities, on our character. Today, Christie is coming over and she's going to show us this routine that hundreds and thousands of women go through every single day to look beautiful.
So I've already taken off my makeup, and we're gonna get started with a basic routine for people who do their makeup every day. We're starting with Exuviance Brightening Bionic Eye Cream. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is the Porefessional. I have kind of large pores, particularly right here on my cheekbones. So this is Pro Balm to minimize the appearance of pores. So it's from Benefit. I actually really like it. I don't use it every day because I don't really care that much, but I have it in case I'm going to be filming or doing a photo shoot or something. I'll put it on. I think it's kind of funny that the whole point of makeup, like the first 10 steps of makeup, is just to make you look like you're a normal person. Has nothing to do with adding color or anything like that. It's just like, the no makeup. Like you do your makeup so that it looks like you're not wearing makeup, but that you're naturally flawless. All right. So there we have makeup. So if you're wondering why it takes so long for girls to get ready sometimes, it's because we're doing all of this stuff. But it's fun to play with, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If this is your makeup routine, go for it. That's your deal. But it's definitely not necessary to do all of this every day. I think if you want to put on a little blush, little mascara, that's great. So enjoy your makeup.
Welcome back. We're talking with Kara Eschbach and Janet Easter from Verily magazine about authentic beauty and fashion.
My next question is for Kara. Talking with Janet and listening to why fashion is important. Why is diversity important, and what do you do to show how diverse beauty is for women?
Yeah, I think as Christie said before we went to the break, really this idea of highlighting an individual's beauty. I think that is at the core of it. And the thing about magazines and media in general, but particularly women's magazines, which are, giving advice and sort of showing women, here's what we hold up as an ideal. There's been just copious amounts of research about the effect that images and viewing images have on anybody's perception of both other people and of themselves. I think there was something just a few months ago that was released where researchers were showing women images of themselves, of other people, and altered images of themselves. And they found that when they showed them images of themselves that were altered to be thinner than what they are, they came to start perceiving their current natural state as being larger than they were before they saw the images. So I think that the power of imagery, which Janet was talking about, is just so pervasive in our psyche. And on the one hand, yes, it can be very detrimental, but I think the idea that we've had is, well, if we showed women who were all different kinds of beautiful, they can be short. I'm 5'3", Janet's, 5'8", and, I'm a brunette and she's blonde. And I think that we've both come to grapple with we are different, but both, can come to accept and enjoy our own beauty and to enjoy other women's beauty. And I think that showing it is by far the best way you can do that. You can tell people until you're blue in the face that they should think something is beautiful, but there's nothing quite as viscerally arresting as seeing a woman you're just wow, she looks amazing. And then you start to realize oh, and she, has curly hair, or she's of an ethnicity that we don't usually think that is, stereotypically beautiful. I think all of those things start to come together into a much more whole and true vision of what beauty is for both how we view other people and how we view ourselves.
And wonderful that the press took such notice. I'd like to address this one to Janet. We are talking so much about authenticity. Obviously, God is the way, the truth, and the life. And so how can authenticity help to heal our broken culture?
I think you can talk about authenticity as really something that is true, beautiful, and good. And that's with Verily, that's what we're trying to encapsulate. We're trying to show what is beautiful, what is good, what is true. We're trying to show what living a good life looks like. And I think as women, especially, we need inspiration. We need examples. We need stories. We need community. We need support in living this good life. And that's what we're doing with Verily, not only through the journalism and the storytelling, but also with the fashion and the beauty. They're guideposts, they're examples. And I think we're also very realistic and very, and quote, authentic. The editors, myself, Kara, and all the other editors, we don't come from a place of, we've got it all figured out. and here's our wisdom we're imparting to you. We're actually, we're still all figuring it out. We're still on this journey. And what we're really doing is inviting women into the conversation. We're inviting women to sort of, let's live this good life together, and let's figure out what this looks like, and let's help each other. And so I think that's very important too, which is also unique for a magazine, that, you know, we're not coming from this voice of, per se, authority on exactly how to live. But I think we're also we're just showing a better example. And I think we're showing a real alternative, and we are striving for that good, true, and beautiful. And so I think we're hoping that Verily really speaks to women, is a safe space for them to come, no matter what background they have, whether they're Catholic or Christian or not. I think all women are looking for living a good life, for really becoming the best versions of themselves.
Oh, wow.
Amen.
That's beautiful. I have one question for Kara. And this question is, if there's, just kind of wrapping it up, if there is one thing that Verily aspires to, an objective with, you know, that a message that they'd like to transmit to each woman out there, what is it?
I think if you're trying to encapsulate it, is that the real human flourishing is possible, and that we can be on this journey together, and that the little moments of beauty in your life are absolutely worth striving for and worth seeking. And I think that isn't just about personal beauty, and it's not just about, you know, personal goodness. I think it's about community and the way that it impacts family and your work life and everything that you touch. I think it's really, we say it's authenticity, but it's really all of these things that feed into authenticity. And I think being the real you isn't being just like, oh, well, whatever I want to be at any given moment in time. I think it's being the best you, which is really this woman who is, rooted in the knowledge of her own goodness and her own self, to be able to give that to those who are around her and really build a more beautiful world.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you so
It
much.
ends up all coming back to the theology of the body and self-donation. Thank you so much, both of you, Kara and Janet. And Janet, God bless your baby girl, and both of you, everyone in your lives. We're so grateful to this beautiful witness.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, guys.
Just beautiful. I think the thing that really moved me was talking about just that it all comes down to human thriving. Mm-hmm. I think as little girls, we start to think of ourselves as having to visually please everybody. Mm-hmm.
You know,
that's not human thriving. That is taking you outside of that core of your humanity and forcing, it's really quite tyrannical.
Yes, it's teaching little girls, to live from the outside instead of from the inside, and living from the outside. Yes, we're called to be beautiful on the outside, but the most important beauty that ends up shining through is the inside, the internal beauty. I mean, look at Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa, physically, when you looked at her, it's not like, she was short, she was all, she was, had been bent over from all the work that she did, but you would look at her and there was this internal beauty that would shine through, and she was just a beautiful woman because she was whole, And today I think we have beautiful women on the outside, but they're missing so much because they've worked on the outside so much, but the inside is hollow many times. They haven't cultivated virtues.
Yeah.
Haven't cultivated their talents. And, I think that a lot of times, a lot of women, come to a later stage in their lives and they think, well, what did I do? I cultivated so many external qualities, but what did I do on the inside?
Yeah. Well, and I think, Lisa's brought this up before in her book, True Radiance, where you talk about, we're spending so much time trying to create this image, chasing an image that is not God, that we spend all this money on clothes, on makeup, on hair stuff, when we have better things to do. And I think that applies to women at all stages. You talk about, what are we cultivating? Where are we spending our time? Mm-hmm.
It's really devastating, really. And I think that Verily is on the right track, and whatever we could do to support Verily and their message, because it's revolutionary for any girl, Catholic or non-Catholic, like they said, but to understand that you're created beautiful. objectively speaking. You know, it's not just someone saying, because we're all used to hearing, oh, you're beautiful, oh, you're beautiful. And, you know, deep down that we know that, oh, you're just saying that kind of thing. But we have to teach our girls that, you know, God made them beautiful. And verily is basically just saying, you know, you have dignity, and that's what makes you objectively beautiful. No one can take that away from you.
It's an artistic expression. If our bodies express the divine, which they do, our souls and bodies are one nature, one unity.
Yes.
And so even this expression, how we dress, says something to the world too. And so learning to appreciate our own authentic dignity and beauty then gets expressed more and more through the way we dress. There's nothing sinful about looking good or looking the way you want to look.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you. This has been such a moving discussion. I think someone mentioned, it might have been you, Andrea, that men don't really quite get the trauma.
Yes, it was
that women
me.
experience. So I hope that our viewers have some food for thought and feel more supported. We're so happy to have had you with us today.
And if you want to continue to support the work of Shalom World, please go to www.shalomworld.org/donate.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always email us at womanb@shalomworld.org.
And we'll be praying for you, so please pray for us too. Bye now.